Okay, welcome to another Batrep from the Durandal Initiative. This will be a breakdown of our regionals practice series, part 4, I believe. Give you a little bit of a rundown of what my thoughts were during the match, what strategies I plan to use moving forward, and any tweaks or so to the fleet that I'm planning on doing to keep practicing and moving forward towards regionals. That being said, I'm going to try and keep this truncated or short as possible, and kind of go through this. So to start with, I'm going to go through the fleet a little bit first here. I'm taking a Sloan fleet with a single ISD with the new Simoon 1 refit. Kitted out pretty good here with strategic advisors, veteran gunners for a little bit of reroll, spinal armaments, XI7s, and Avenger. Should hit pretty hard at long range. The Quasar Fire 1 with Captain Brunson, who is turning out to be worth every penny for her ability. Literally, you'll see in this match, is the only reason that the Quasar survives this match is because of Captain Brunson. Flight controllers and Stronghold, you'll see with my fighter contingent, all complement each other pretty well. 2 Gazantes, one with a comms net. I've got a counter fleet, counter squadrons here with Dangar, 2 regular TIE Advanced, a TIE Interceptor, Howl Runner, Sunterfell, Saber Squadron, and Strom. Deployment here, Dan chose contested outpost from my 3 objectives, which was kind of what I was hoping for. I wanted a little bit of practice with this one. My idea with this one was to set up kind of an arc of obstacles here and then place the station amongst them. Twofold. One, to make his approach more difficult towards the station, and secondly, because having these obstacles all clustered around where I know we'll be fighting will allow me to trigger the Captain Brunson's ability pretty much every single time that the Quasar gets shot at. So as you can see, when we deploy and finish deploying all of the obstacles, I've got a nice little cushion here of 4 obstacles, the station, and I can then deploy my fleet all behind the cover of these obstacles. He can either choose to come around or through these lanes or around again. Either way, it kind of gives me a little bit of an advantage of knowing which attack lanes he has open to him, unless he's willing to just plow through those objectives. He realized pretty early on with the number of squadrons that I have that he was going to have to deploy most of his fleet before any of my big guns got out on the table. So starting with his transports and squadrons, which is pretty standard operating procedure at this point, he deploys his fleet as so, where he's got his transports in the middle, his Mon Mothma on a TRC here, a blank MC-30, admonition and foresight out here on the far flank. At this point, I pretty much know his plan is to bring foresight and admonition in a gun line one at a time to try and, because he's got first player, he's going to try and do strafing runs with his MC-30s and bring him on through here. That gives me a huge advantage knowing where he's going to be and what he's going to do. Wasn't quite sure what he planned to do with these guys over here. And at this point, I kind of had a decision. I had to decide where to deploy my Quasar and my ISD. The idea is that these Gazantes are going to be meat shields, preventing the MC-30s from being able to land at close range, going last and then going first, mostly through overlapping, just stopping the MC-30s from being able to land in those spots. So I really need to put both the Quasar and the ISD on this side. The decision was in which order. I opted for putting the ISD on the far flank with the idea that I would jump out aggressively and threaten his admiral. That was really what I wanted to do. The main reason being that these MC-30s are super annoying with Mothma. Getting to use those evades at close and medium range is extremely frustrating. If I can somehow threaten and take out Mothma early in the match, that gives me a huge advantage moving forward. So I ended up deploying the ISD on the far flank here, as you'll see, and we're off. Now, I'm gaining 20-point tokens every round. He's not coming at this, so he's really got to come at me as fast as possible to try and prevent that. Yeah, so turn 1 happened pretty much as expected. He jumps Admonition and Foresight out at speed 4, and I believe speed 3 in a gun line to come through one at a time. I jump my ISD out speed 3 to threaten this whole area with his front arc long range. What I didn't anticipate was he kept Jaina's Light and this Blink MC30 both at speed, I believe they're both at speed 3. I could be wrong about that. But because I think he felt because he was first player, he would be able to move her out of danger before I ever got a shot at her. And I think normally that would have worked. Here's where this probably wouldn't happen in a normal match. At this point, we didn't have the Chimera expansion pack yet, so this card, I was proxying the card. I accidentally had the ISD-1 card on this base. I do have a proxy card here, but when he decides to move Jaina's Light first, he is concerning himself mostly with just staying out of close range, because he knew I took the Simoon, he knew I had long-range guns, but in the heat of obviously moving all this stuff around, it's easy to forget when you're proxying stuff, hence why everything's got a card. So he fires Jaina's Light here and does moderate amount of damage with a TRC here. You can see does some damage to the front, which I brace down. And then he moves and moves her into medium range, thinking that I've got only a couple, like a red and a blue or something like that, and a couple blacks. But what I really have out the side is, I think, 3 blues and a red, or 3 reds and a blue, I can't remember. But anyways, it's enough to be threatening. The other thing that he did by hanging her out so aggressively was put her within striking distance of all my Sloan fighters. So once I saw that, I knew immediately that my next move would be to take this entire bomber, or not bomber ball, but Sloan fighters, and try and strip as many tokens and do as much damage as I can before activating the ISD. So activate the Quasar, all 5, does some various amounts of damage and stripping of tokens here with accuracies and damage, and it kind of puts Jaina's Light in a bad spot. I'm then moving really cautiously, just moving the Quasar up 1. At this point, he's pretty upset because he thinks Jaina's Light's in trouble, and rightfully so. From here, he moves his transport in aggressively, and then follows up with, I then follow up with my last few remaining fighters to engage Shara and Tycho. I then move my transports into, again, a blocking pattern here to keep those MC30s off of the Quasar. The Quasar will pop with a good double arc shot from an NC30. He ends up overlapping the ship, backs him up, keeps him out of close range to the Quasar, which is exactly what they're there to do. From there, I move my last Gazanti. I've also used Strategic Advisor at this point to force him to move 1 more MC30 before my ISD has to activate, which he does move 4 sites. He leaves his MC30 out here at long range. So at this point, I've got a side arc shot on Jaina's Light, and I'm really hoping to be able to destroy it. Now at this point, Dan gets really unlucky, and I get very lucky because I roll the exact amount of damage needed to kill Jaina's Light, and I even need to re-roll a red in there and get a double off of it and do. It's
you do not understand how squishy they are.
Yes, they are.
It was extremely lucky.
You burned it up, so yeah. I still need to get 5.
But I will say his reaction was pretty priceless.
Okay, so that's 3.
Hold the phone.
So he's going to take 3.
Yep.
That's a crit.
So that's 2 damage cards, 1's a crit.
So I can't, he's not going to dagger my door. Oh, I do have a concentrate fire. Yeah, he needs to die.
Okay.
I need 2 more hits.
Here I go all for nothing because I know losing Mothma
One
again
would make it
is a
50 damage,
huge
2
advantage to me at this point.
Because I'm gonna roll a red.
You're
I
gonna
can't
roll-
roll a blank with
You're
him.
gonna roll a double and kill him, and it's gonna make me really angry.
And I do. Now his look here is
And for those of you at home, Dan, the look on Dan's face is priceless.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
poor Dan. Anyways, so Jaina's Light gets deleted. I then take a long range shot at the MC30 out there, which doesn't do a ton of damage, but gets some on there. Those XI7s are tough to deal with. I'll tell you what. From that point, Dan is forced to move. I move up close range to his MC30. He gets a nice front zone shot, which does a good amount of damage, and then he can't get around me going speed 2. And he took a navigate dial here, but did not bump his speed up because even at speed 3 he wasn't going to get around me. But so he kept him at speed 2. We collide and each take a damage, and then move on to round 3. Now round 3 is where things get pretty interesting here. I've done moved my squadrons out of activation range of a lot of my Quasar, which is unfortunate, but I did take a squadron command with my ISD because he can still activate 3 squadrons a turn. From here, Dan gets to go first. He activates his MC30, but because he's still going speed 2, he can't get around the ISD and ends up colliding again and landing back where he started yet again. I then activate the the ISD, take a squadron command, and jump my fighters in to start cleaning up Tycho and Shara. From there, I get a front range shot at close range, and it's enough to obviously delete his MC30 for me. So at this point, the match has gone pretty much exactly the way I'd hoped. I put my ISD out here to throw it in his weak flank and was able to destroy both of those ships that were out there. Granted, the Jaina's Light getting destroyed was a stroke of just getting the perfect roll, but either way, it was nice. From here, he activates this MC30 and destroys both Gazantis with 2 side arc shots. It was pretty impressive. He got 1 accuracy on both sides and enough damage to destroy both Gazantis. And that was unfortunate because I was really counting on at least one of them surviving to maintain a little bit of an activation advantage. But he did a nice job of just blowing him up and then positioning him on a double arc with the Quasar, which is really not good. I'm now at the point where I'm no longer able to collect tokens from the station, and I'm about to lose my squadron pusher as well as any kind of activation advantage that I could have had. So I really need the Quasar to survive this next round or 2. The Quasar fires and destroys the transport and then makes a move around here like so. Keep in mind here is where Brunson really kicks in. Because I'm surrounded by asteroids, I'll always be able to activate Brunson when needed. So the following rounds, turn 3 just ends up moving. He moves all of his 2 ships. Now I'm close range to both of these ships, which is unfortunate. He does have a double arc shot here, so he decides to activate Foresight and take a double arc shot on the Quasar, which ends up putting a decent amount of damage on him, but with Brunson I was able to cancel a double hit with a crit. He then moves out. I think the Quasar at this point has, he has 1 crit through with a double arc shot there. That was huge with Brunson. From here, I have to activate the Quasar before he takes another broadside. I activate squadrons, which I start chipping away at Foresight, and then I move and land myself on that asteroid. Now you'll notice he still has another double arc shot here, which he then takes and starts putting a lot more damage on me. Again, not able to cancel any of those because Brunson is exhausted at this point. But he's fairly confident at this point that he can finish me off with a rear end shot here. But what I realized, and maybe he didn't, was that with Brunson, I would be able to cancel the worst of it and only take at the most 1 damage. And I think I had 1 shield there, which would leave him with 0 shields, 0 defensive tokens, and all the damage except for 1, and let him escape out of there alive, which ends up happening. And also allows him to keep pushing squadrons to finish off Foresight in the end, which was pretty lucky again on my end, because by the time Foresight moves out here, I again have to roll the perfect number of hits in order to destroy him, and then I end up getting, which is again a very lucky rolls on my part.
Oh man,
It's gonna come down to the last
it's gonna
bomber.
really come down to the last squadron. Here we go.
This is ridiculous.
Oh my god. Here we go.
Sending good vibes.
Oh yes!
Good Foresight.
Die, Foresight, die.
And
that was,
I would have saved myself.
And that was pretty much the end of the match. From there, there was no other. I think he ended up with 3 objective tokens to my 2, but I had, by far had the most points with fleet. But it could have gone. I mean, this was. I think we figured it as a 7-3 or an 8-2 margin of victory on my part, but it could have easily have swung the entire other way. If that Quasar dies, 2 rounds before that, there's no way to push squadrons, which is no way to get all that damage on Foresight. I don't even know if I killed that other transport. He would essentially have lost 1 MC-30 and Jaina's Light, and I would have lost everything but my ISD and squadrons. So it would have been probably a 6-5 victory his way, maybe more. Could have really easily have gone the other way. But I think the one thing that worked well was those Gazantes working as a meat shield. A lot of people like to just steer those away from the fight. I kind of like to get them up in there and have them at least serve a purpose of going there. So I hope you guys found this useful, getting inside my head here as far as how this all went down. Again, Brunson is I can't speak highly enough for Brunson. That upgrade, that might be the upgrade I'm most excited about in this new Wave 7, because it can go on any ship. I'm excited to put it on Demolisher. I'm excited to put it on, heck, even any key component to your fleet, as long as you have a plan for deploying your obstacles. If you've got a good plan for deploying obstacles, you're going to get a lot of mileage out of that upgrade. Strategic Advisor helped out as well, but this ended up being pretty good. So this will probably be pretty close to the fleet that I take to regionals, but we'll see. We've got a lot of playtesting to do before March 24th, which is when that happens. So thanks for taking the time to listen to me, and you guys have a good night.